No one wants to be around when the system fails. The system will fail. The fiat system will fail. They always fail. As a French philosopher named Voltaire said, eventually paper money returns to an intrinsic value, which is the value of the paper it's printed on, zero. Now, these banks, okay? It's my money, not their money.
Welcome to Dream Richer. We have all come across our old high school friend claiming to be filthy rich from a secret money-making method he has discovered. At some point, we all encounter these Ponzi and pyramid schemes businesses. What if I told you that the money you are using right now is all part of a Ponzi scheme? Ponzi scheme promoters use money deposited by early investors to pay the first dividend. Investors feel comfortable and decide to invest more. Investors often encourage their family and friends to join. Eventually, all Ponzi schemes fall apart. They collapse when the promoter spends the money too quickly or the pool of investors dries up. A Ponzi scheme is dictated by three main factors. Number 1, the rate of return is suspiciously high. Number 2, someone you trust tries to recruit you. For example, it could be a trustworthy neighbor or someone in your church or community group. And lastly, factor number 3, the recruiter has already invested in the scheme and received great dividends. Some argue that Herbalife and ACN multi-level marketing are all examples of these Ponzi and pyramid schemes. However, as Mr. Greg Foss argues in today's video, none of these business models beats the fiat Ponzi of the dollar. If you find the video helpful, then don't forget to subscribe. Let's get right into it.
Explain to me how you discovered Bitcoin and why it's part of your personal investment strategy.
I'll tell you, I've been looking for the solution to the fiat Ponzi for over 30 years, right? It started in 1988 when I'm like, this is ridiculous. And I said I didn't become a gold bug. But then I lived through the great financial crisis working at a hedge fund where I did actually feel that the financial world was very close to collapsing. Thank goodness, because you have to say thank goodness, because no one wants to be around when the system fails. The system will fail. And that is why you need Bitcoin. Bitcoin is insurance against the system failing. And each successive financial crisis gets more, is shorter duration, meaning the 2009 financial crisis took about 2 years to unfold. And then fast forward to the COVID crisis, that took about 2 months to unfold, right? The next one could even be shorter duration and more severe cascade of prices. And I'm sitting at my pub in Montreal and he's trying to pitch me on Bitcoin. And I'm like everybody, all right, okay. I know it's a Ponzi because the press tells me it's a Ponzi. It's got to be a Ponzi because the press would never lie, would they? Come on. But at least, thank goodness, I did some work. And I'm like, okay, Fred, why don't you tell me, give me some reasons. And he's giving me these reasons. And he's like, and there's only 21 million of them and they'll be backed by math and code. And I'm like, that's all cool. I get it. But he says, I'm going to show you this in action. And he took me to a thing called tradeblock.com on his phone. And it showed the blockchain in action, posting transactions to the mempool and then building blocks and I'm an engineer and I look at this thing and it's like a breathing organism. And I'm like, are you kidding me? This is actually happening in the world right now. And it was like a come to Jesus moment for me, okay? Because I'm like, holy shit, is this cool? Like, first of all, you can see it. Now I got all the rationale, but it's backed by math and code. There's nobody controls it. It is trustless, meaning it doesn't need to be verified by any intermediary. So the word trustless isn't meant to say that you can't trust it. What it means is you don't have to trust anybody. There's no central mechanism to trust. These transactions are being verified. And I saw this and I was sold. I'm like, holy is this cool?
Here's a quick breakdown on how the US financing system currently works when viewed through the lens of Greg Foss. Firstly, it runs at a deficit by losing massive amounts of money every year. As such, the government is only left with one option, which is to finance their sectors with new debt. When the time comes for due debt to be paid, they pay profits to earlier investors by issuing more debt by using funds from more recent investors. That is the definition of a Ponzi scheme. This ultimately makes the dollar the biggest Ponzi scheme of today's generation. Like all Ponzi schemes, they are bound to crash at one point or another. The US government has no intention of ever paying the debt off. In fact, the US government recently passed a significant tax cut that is estimated to cause an additional $1.071 trillion over 10 years. That is the equivalent of $298 million being printed per day. That's correct. Per day.
The upside is so incredible compared to the downside that you don't have to put all your eggs in the Bitcoin basket to participate in the insurance that it offers to the world. And that's the beauty of an asymmetric trade. And I have a saying that asymmetric trades define careers. I am such a Bitcoin advocate because you don't have to own a lot of it in order for you to participate in its beautiful upside. That's why I'm passionate on Twitter and I'm passionate on these podcasts, because I think I've sat in a risk chair long enough that I have at least some credibility that I can evaluate various trades that can make people money. And we were doing great in the great financial crisis, which is hard to imagine at my hedge fund. We were doing great because we had actually purchased these insurance policies, and I still wasn't happy because the world was going to end. Like, you don't want the world to end on a fiat basis. What you need is a parallel system that exists that'll allow the fiat system to transfer to the Bitcoin standard. And that's exciting because we don't have a choice. The fiat system will fail. They always fail. As a French philosopher named Voltaire said, eventually paper money returns to its intrinsic value, which is the value of the paper it's printed on, zero, okay? Don't overthink this, people. You need insurance against the fiat Ponzi, plain and simple. And what you have to do then is say, what percentage of the total addressable market is it logical to assume that Bitcoin can capture? And I just start with 5%, which I think could be low, but listen to the math. 5% of 900 trillion is 45 trillion. $45 trillion in today's dollars, divide by 21 million Bitcoin, is over $2 million a Bitcoin in today's dollars. Could it be higher? Yeah, could be way higher. Could it be only 1%? Well, just do the math at 1% and you'll realize that it's still really attractive to own Bitcoin at 40,000 US dollars per coin. And then you do what's called an expected value outcome based on some probability distribution. And I can just assure you that this is the best asymmetric trade and investment opportunity I have ever seen. So I'm in Bitcoin very simply because I don't trust the fiat Ponzi. And there's no other coin or token out there that is truly decentralized that can give me the comfort that I get from owning Bitcoin. So as Fidelity Investments appropriately said, and they didn't say it in my words, but this is Foss's interpreting Fidelity Investments, really good research. And I encourage all your listeners to go and look at that research. There's Bitcoin and then there's coins, okay? Act accordingly.
It's clear from Greg Foss's explanation that all Ponzi schemes are bound to fail at one point. As such, the crash of our current fiat system is not far from becoming a reality. What's the solution to this? In the words of Greg Foss, the solution is none other than Bitcoin. As he sees it, Bitcoin will replace our current fiat system since it is deflationary and is a large breathing organism. The dollar, once tied to gold, is now just a confidence game. So in addition to piling on debt that will never be repaid, the government also prints massive amounts of money. Once the gold standard was lost to actually back your money, pretty much every currency jumped in the same boat. This leaves many investors wondering what the future of Bitcoin looks like. Will we see more Bitcoin take over once the system collapses? To learn more about the latest crypto news, watch these videos here.